An additional question would be, now, I'll just go to Westworld, we've gone to different things there. It just seems like that facility should pay for itself. Are we charging too little for people who are out of town who want to use it? What's that about? Comments?
Yeah, so Westworld does not pay for itself. We do need to hop in there. And the question is, how much can we charge, right? So there's different arenas, and the different arenas have different rates, and we need to get in there and analyze it. You know, there's a tent that has no air conditioning. We can't use that in the summertime. Barrett-Jackson is our largest user, and they do pay a hefty price. The Arabian show, I've spoken with them as well. They do pay what they think that they can. But part of the idea is, can we bring in more opportunities? So Barrett-Jackson is going to be coming back in October for the first time. So they're going to be doing another car show. So let's bring in more shows. Let's bring in and keep Westworld busy. We do have a really beat up parking lot. It does look terrible for a world-class event center, so we do need to do some work. Maybe we make that tent into an actual building and put air conditioning in there so we can have more events, and that would get us closer to being in the black. But right now, there's actually a financial reason to keep it in the red, and it's a loan, it's a something that was explained to me. And so for right now, we are in the red, but I think once that gets resolved, we might be able to turn it over. So, thank you.
Comments from anyone else on that?
I think also to piggyback off that with Westworld is we do bring in a lot of like world-class shows, world-class events, but we can only do so in such a small period of time throughout when the weather's really nice. And that's why maybe it's not running as efficiently as possible. I think a lot of the improvements we could make would allow it to be used more throughout the year. That would make it more profitable, more fiscally make sense. And as well as a lot of these investments that come in will just allow for more capacity as well throughout the year in the different events. And I think another thing too is events just really drive our economy. Tourism is really important, and I think we all really enjoy the events that put Scottsdale on the map. And so investing in those and making sure we're promoting those is something that's not going to make impacts now on our budget, but also large impacts in the next 10, 20 years that's going to bring more dollars into Scottsdale, which helps keep taxes low.
Good answers. Anyone else want to hit that too, Bob?
So I'm friends with somebody that's in the Arabian horse business. And he clearly says that Westworld should accommodate so many more horse shows. So that's a stream of revenue that I would encourage the city to look into. But I've got a funny story about Westworld. One of the meetings that I attended at City Hall, one of the council members asked, "Are we on budget?" And the treasurer said, "No, we're over budget by $500,000. She didn't ask if that was based on 10% of completion, 50% of completion. She also went on to connect the wrong dots by saying, well, that's okay because we're going to have sales revenue from it, sales tax revenue. And I pointed out that it was the sales tax revenue that justified the project. So how can you hold somebody accountable who doesn't know how to account?
Are we good now? Okay. Barring any other comments from candidates, let's move to the...
I want to also clarify, reclassification of streets is actually a very broad term. It doesn't just mean taking away a lane or adding a lane. It means many things, street improvements, also just infrastructure on the streets. So it's not just removing a lane. And I also think it's important that we all understand that in Scottsdale, we add more lanes to our roads every single year. And I'm anti-road diet, I'm against road diets, I don't want to remove lanes. Scottsdale's a car-first city, but we shouldn't be lying to everyone and telling and making you fear that your lanes are being taken away. And I'll make sure, I think none of us on here want to take your lanes away, so yes, that won't happen with any of us on the council, but also making sure we're understanding what's actually happening in the city council is important, and acknowledging what's true and what's not true. So some of us think it's...
Yeah, so I'd like to also make the statement that what this vote about the road diet on 68th Street was actually about, was a grant. So let me ask you, if you're not going to change any curbing, and you're just going to change paint on the street of 1 mile, how much should that cost? $50,000 in paint and labor? The federal government paid the city of Scottsdale $940,000 to take away a street lane. It's a 10-year agreement that they voted for, and that means that we cannot repaint it if it doesn't work for 10 years, or we have to give all of the money back. The federal government bought road diets in Scottsdale, and this council approved it. That's what's really going on. This is not about the lane reclassification in and of itself. There are more than 20 that have been scheduled by our transportation director that Tim wants to fire. Because of the outcry from you, the residents, those have been put on the back burner. They're just waiting for this election. If 2 of us get on, then the road diets go away. If we don't make it over the line, you will have road diets in Scottsdale.
That's right. And the definition of road diet is more time in the car that you can't spend with your family. That's the definition. The definition of road diet is I can't tuck my children in at night because I'm rushing to get home and there's a tremendous amount of traffic. Let's all bring it home to why this really matters. This is not 30,000 foot view, we shouldn't have road diets. We care about families. We care about families, especially because we're Republicans and we have families. So we want to make sure that we take care of our children. There you go. All right, it's getting late. Thank you. All right. And we want to make sure that all of our decisions that we're making in this room are to take care of families.
Any other answers to that? Amazing?
Yes, I'm the only one remaining. So again, I live off of the road diet that they just did off 68th and Thomas. Now, I'm not going to sit here and tell you that this isn't a real issue, because it is a real issue. The World Economic Forum is pushing this onto the federal government, who's pushing it down to the states, who's pushing it down to the county, and lo and behold, shit rolls down the hill. The point is, right, I look at it purely on a utility basis, it's useless, right? Nobody is using it, 1% of the population. And so when we look at that, that is a real issue that we are wasting money. And yes, the federal government did give a grant, but we still had to spend, I think it was 500 grand on that road diet. And sure, maybe we add more traffic lanes than we do reduce each year. But again, these are votes that were cast long before Tammy Caputi and Tom Durham walked on council. So keep that in mind when you vote. Thank you.
Well, I don't know about you, but I would have done all that painting for only $400,000 myself. Did you answer your question? Ask a question?
No, you've got it in your hand.
Oh, this is yours. Okay, it's a good question. So I got this in my hand here. So VRBO is the question. It's about. So it's a commercial business and they're in residential communities. So investors are buying up private homes. What are you going to do about it? Bob, want to start down at your end? Answer that.
I think the real problem with short-term rentals are investment properties. And I really think that, one, I'm an advocate of the new law that was passed where you can build like a casita in your backyard. And I think that's a real good answer to short-term rentals, because nobody would build a party house in their backyard. Nobody would build a house that didn't conform to the standards of their neighborhood. So I think number one issue is the investor short-term rentals. The first thing I would push for is a minimum time of rental.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I'm an HOA president, so I understand how it works.
Anybody else?
Yeah, I think with short-term rentals, it is a big issue. I'm hearing about it a lot. And I think there's 2 things to think about here. It's bad actors and it's oversaturation. I think we hear a lot about these party houses. We hear a lot about disturbing activity in family neighborhoods. You know, campaigning, and in like, I think 1 week I met 2 different families that actually moved neighborhoods just because of short-term rentals. To me, that's a problem. That is something that's decimating our family neighborhoods, those who want to come here, live, raise a family. That's just as important as any other aspect in Scottsdale. The other, I think, important issue is saturation. I don't think all short-term rentals are bad, but I think when there's like 5 on every block, probably a problem. I think if there was, 20 Starbucks on every block, I would be kind of annoyed at them as well, even though I like coffee. So I think that's something we have to look into. How can we find ways to lower the saturation in a fair way, and in a conservative way, and not in a government overreach way? So that's something I'll be looking into doing.
Any other candidates want to touch that?
Yeah, I just want to we got to be honest of where we can do something and where we can't, right? Short-term rentals are regulated by the state of Arizona, not the city of Scottsdale. And so I just want to be honest of where the power lies. Any politician who says that they're going to do something about short-term rentals, but they don't have the power to do it, is not telling the truth to you. So here's what we all can do. Here's what we can do. We can make sure that there's a local person there, right, that you can call. It's not some 800 corporate number in Dubai that's answering the phone and saying short-term rental over here, okay? We have to be able to talk to somebody. And then also, you really have to hammer the bad actors. You can't just, it's not just this 3 strikes you're out kind of a thing, and oh, they throw this huge party with inflatable things that kids are seeing, right? Okay, we want to have real bad actor punishment, and we do not want to turn into, and we do everything I can to make sure that we talk with Chaplik and with Collin and with Gress and with Kavanaugh to make sure that this city does not turn into Sedona with like 82% short-term rentals and 12% private residences.
I'm just going to list out a few things. So there's 8,000 plus short-term rentals in Scottsdale right now. Now the real effect of that is schools are going to start shutting down. That is a problem, right? You don't have permanent residents here, nobody with stake, nobody with tenure, and the problem with that is, again, school's going to shut down. There's not going to be actual residents who live here. Other thing is, you did mention that the legislature has the majority control. That is true. My intent would be to sue the hell out of them, because guess what? This is our city, and as far as I'm concerned, we should be able to govern our city how we please, and the legislature should have no say in that. So, and I know that because Jan and I, we actually sat at a meeting where I think it was LD 26. You know, there was a guy preaching about how much he loved middle housing, and it's like they have different issues in different municipalities, and our issue right now is short-term rentals.
So I was part of the recent bill that required short-term rentals to become licensed in a state. What that's done is it's brought in all these licenses and brought in a bunch of revenue, and now it's paying for a police task force for these short-term rentals. The president of the Police Association for Scottsdale, that endorsed me, actually works on that task force. So he and I have had a long conversation about it, and the interpretation of the ordinance right now by the attorney, city attorney, is that we are going to cite the individual having the party, not the homeowner. And so he said, the people come and they go, they come and they go. We need to be citing the homeowners. That was the intention of the bill that I worked on with the legislature, was to cite the homeowners. And once we do that, and once they feel the pain and they lose their licenses because they're throwing these parties and they're having inappropriate noises, then we're gonna see a lot of change. And so that's one of the things that we will bring to Scottsdale City Council, is a better interpretation of the ordinance. Thank you.
Good answers. I'll get back to you in a second. Let's take one on the far side of the room. How about the furthest woman back there? That would be you. One of you two, anyway.
I just want to know, everybody comes and talks to us, they tell us what they're going to do, and then they get off the board and it doesn't get done. I want to know how many of you tonight are willing to take a pledge and do exactly what you just told us tonight you're going to do.
It looks like it's unanimous. You want to go ahead? Do you have a comment, Anna?
Oh, no, just Durham lied to you. Tom Durham lied. He lied to everybody in this room. He lied. He said he was a Republican. He wasn't a Republican. He said he was a conservative. He wasn't a conservative. And he said he was going to fight for you, and he didn't fight for you. So he's got to be fired. Tom Durham.
The only other thing that I would add to that is that I am a precinct committeeman, I'm a captain, I'm a state committeeman here. Many of you have been in my home. You guys know me. That's what Kathy Littlefield and Barry Graham say on this trail, is I know Jan, and I've known Jan for years. My parents, please stand up, are here. You know me. You know how to find me. I will do what I said I'm going to do.
We're going to tell your mom.
You can tell my mom.
You know, it's interesting. I was invited to a radio talk show, and I was telling them about what I would do if I was on the board. And I'm sure that there are people that have great intentions, but one of the issues is if your voice crying in the wilderness, it's hard to be heard. It's hard for your views to make it to the vote. So what we need is a consensus of conservatives on city council that will support each other to get what you want done.
Here. You got a follow-up?
So I've been a precinct captain, a state committeeman, I run the Maricopa County Board, and Republican, of course, and I'm also an Arizona delegate. What I'm saying is, how many of you are willing to wear a target on your back like I did, and then an entire board quit, and LD15, when it was LD15, it took 3 years, but I had a target on my back, and how many of you are willing to do the same thing? Don't cave, you stay strong, and you have targets on your back, but you do
Mason?
I don't know specifically about that issue, but what I can tell you is there's a reason that Abe Hamada, Joe Chaplik, Michelle Ugenti-Rita, there's a reason that they have endorsed me. And it's because of the fact that they understand that I'm a principled individual. I will stand by what I say. And truth be told, you need somebody in office who has had a stake. Jan and I actually talked about this today. And the reality is you have people like Tammy who have been given everything in their life and they have never actually had to work for anything. I have worked for my entire life, for as long as I can remember at least. And what I can tell you is I don't need somebody to line my pockets or give me a buck and then do what they tell me to do. I'm gonna do what's right and I'm gonna do what the residents would like me to do, and that is it. Thank you.
Well, the question is, are you going to be doing what you're saying doing? Are you going to go in and actually execute on what you campaigned on? I've been, all my answers tonight have not been the easy answers. I pushed back on some things. I think I separated some of my answers from my opponents here. And I do that because I'm telling you what I believe and I'm telling you what I'm going to do. I think it's easy to campaign on easy answers, but then once you get in office, it's harder to actually do those. And I'm not running to win an election, I'm running to do a job and do it well and actually serve the city. Reason why is I'm a 6th generation Arizonan. My family migrated here in 1880, and I'm as blooded as Arizonans could get. I grew up in the desert, I walked around getting stabbed by everything. And so this is my home. I love this place, I love Scottsdale, and I'm running because I'm looking ahead and realizing that we need to be growing the right way we can, and we do not want to be a city that declines. I do not want to be someone that's forced to move because maybe I have a family and it's not safe here anymore, or there's nothing to do here, there's no job, no prospects. We need to be a city that's growing and evolving, but keeping who we are and why we all love this place. And because of that, that's why I'm going to be doing and saying exactly what I am. Nothing will change from that. And I'd rather people kick me out the next year because he did everything he said and they didn't like it than because I lied and now I'm that politician again. So that's not what's going to happen.
I'd like to make one more point, which is something that we should all be aware of. Kathy and Bob Littlefield have been on the council for 22 years. By the time Kathy is turned out next season, it'll be 24 years. In their history, we have not had a conservative majority on Scottsdale City Council. This is a big deal. This is a big deal. We need 2 seats, whether it's mayor and 1 council, or if it's 2 council, we'd love to have the mayor as well. If you can't, we all understand that we are about to face serious fire. You are going to get negative ads about each and every one of us in the mail and in your phones. We understand that we're about to take on something and they're not happy about it. They're really not happy about it, but it's an opportunity. It's a huge, huge opportunity, and we're standing before you saying we're gonna do this. We're gonna do this for Scottsdale. We're gonna do this for our future. We're gonna do this for you. So I hope to have your trust and your vote. Thank you.
One last point. When you're hiring someone, when you're hiring anybody, whether it's in the private sector or in the public sector, you want to know that they're going to do a good job. So what do you do to tell what they're going to do? You call for references, right? Endorsements, right? Or you see their resume, right? I have a proven resume. I was in the legislature. I have a record. You could look it up. My record has been conservative, fiscally, socially, ensuring that families are first and ensuring that the taxpayer is protected. That also is what matters. We got to make sure that whomever we have there, and by the way, if we're asking for the job, you guys are the boss. Y'all are the boss. We're the employee. Fire us immediately. Work hard to get us out of there if we're not keeping our promises.
Excellent. Well, these are kind of wrap-up statements, which I think is a good thing. And we have time for another 2 questions. Oh, I know. Are you ready? Well, why don't you go ahead and ask her a question? Let's go.
I live right in this HOA, and so my question is going to be about how did this happen and what can you do to fix it? So first of all, I want to just clear out, I love Westworld, fine with Barrett-Jackson, my family and I went there, but going to Barrett-Jackson and having all of our events does not mean let's disrespect the neighborhood. And we had, I just wanted to tell you, families first, We had a family with a 5-year-old, family, a couple that's cute that are in their 90s that are like, these are my direct neighbors, real people. Another person who's about 83 and on a bike, and me walking my service dog puppy. Okay, so going 65 miles an hour on a 30-mile-an-hour road, I hope one of the answers is not like, let's change that mile per hour. But how did that happen, and what would you do to fix it? And keep in mind, we only have 8 motorcycle cops for the entire city of Scottsdale.
All right, Jane, go ahead.
So the Scottsdale Police Department, I attended the 10-week Citizens Academy with Keith and Michael over here. We're short-staffed.
Yep.
We're short-staffed. I think you and I talked on the phone about that. We're 20% down. The city of Phoenix is 45% down because that's not a great place to work. But we need to focus on our police, and what I believe we need to do is we need to have more officers who are standing there with their photo radar gun at irregular times, without signs in front of them 100 yards, you know to slow down, you know it's there. We need more police presence around these events. The police are there, they're walking around, I've seen them, but we need to keep our residents safe first, number one. Westworld, you know, we need to have a vision for what we're going to bring to the city of Scottsdale, and Westworld's part of that, but part of that vision is we need to have a safe environment for each and every one of the residents. I live in DC Ranch. I am extremely uncomfortable during all of this super season, right? It changes things, but that's part of what we have to do for our planning. We need to beef up our police department, and that will help a lot, I think.
Very good.
The problem with that is if you want more cops, you have to pay for them. Right now, we're competing with every other valley for cops. We're trying to recruit more cops, but it's hard to do so, especially if they can't live here. To me, the biggest concern I have is that how are we going to recruit cops to come live here if they can't, or to come work for us if they can actually live here and be part of the community, especially for the entire city. So we need to think about what ways can we actually recruit good talent, good cops, so then our streets can be safe. That's the goal. We need to find good ways to do that, and that needs to be the focus. And hopefully that answers your concern.
All right, we're getting down on time here. There's one more question. This woman has been waiting since yesterday. So why don't you ask your question?
Okay. Regarding the high-rise developments that are in the pipeline, if you will, okay, that's not approved, or at least not completed. Is there any chance that we have a majority of conservatives on the city council that we could cancel some of those that maybe were approved or haven't yet been started?
So I'll repeat, it's already here. She's talking about all the high rises we have. She's a little tired of that, like many. And her question is, well, we've got a lot in the pipeline. Can they be turned back? Would you be in favor of trying to do that? From you guys?
I'd love to, but it's not unfortunately how that works.
I think to me the concern with that is off the bat is we could maybe find ways to work with that project to lesser the impact. My concern is that if we're as a city taking existing projects that have already had time and money put into them, and then we completely cut them off and say, sorry, we're changing our mind, that's going to give off to the business community, to the world, that Scottsdale is a place you can't trust. And so I understand the concern with these large density projects coming forward. We have to think of the long-term ramifications of decisions like that, and we need to think of the long-term health of our economy and Scottsdale's reputation. So that's something I probably wouldn't be in favor of, but I would want to work with them to make sure we're understanding that the current ones in the pipeline have a lesser impact on the concerns that we have. So that's how it is.
I'd like to throw something out myself as a question, which is on everybody's mind that have looked into it over the years. Have any of you been approached by developers or anybody in the real estate area to give you money to endorse your campaign? How many? You can just show hands if you want, if you've been approached by them.
Look at that.
Okay. Have any of you taken money from them?
Yes, I have, and I've known them for years. And it's if a man goes to my synagogue and builds homes, and like Steve Hilton, and a man that I know is one of the greatest pro-Israel advocates. I'm sorry, I'm going to play the Jew card, okay? Right? You know, there's a difference between, again, I've served in the wedge. I've taken money from people who have interest in front of the state of Arizona. The question isn't about the money. The question is what you do afterwards, okay? You people who want to support you because they've known you for years and they happen to be a home builder is one thing. The answer is, the question is, what did they ask you for this money, right? What are you gonna do for me in this check? And if it's something like, Adam, you're a mensch, I love you, you're gonna be a wonderful man on the council, I'm gonna say thank you for your investment and your support. But when you are strong and you understand that you stand up for your principles and this is what I'm running for, that's when you do the right thing. When you have people who are subservient to donors, that's the problem. But I won't lie to anybody.
Anybody else want to make a comment? Jim?
So I've had all the big developers come to me and offer me money and offer me really big checks. And I've said no. I will not take any money from any developer. I will not take any money with business before council or someone that you could reasonably expect to have business before council. One of the first actions that I will take is to adjust our ordinance. Right now, the gift ordinance says that they can't take gifts from people. I believe that gifts are also campaign donations. Nobody should be taking campaign donations from someone who has business before council. It's a conflict of interest, and it doesn't represent you. My campaign takes money from you and you alone. Thank you.
Yeah, so I actually am a commercial real estate broker, and so I know a lot of these people, and I've been approached by them. I've happily said, no thank you. And the reason why is because, again, I care about this city. This is my generation's future at stake, and even though I'm in commercial real estate, the benefit to you is the fact that none of the brokers that I do is in the state of Arizona. So I have the adequate knowledge that's required to speak to a lot of these developments that come before the council that many of the members of the council don't have. Other than that, I would say, if a developer has donated to me, I'd be shocked because I haven't received a donation over $1,000, so they'd probably be a bad developer.
I'm happy to say that I'm really a grassroots candidate, and I'm very comfortable with funding my own campaign mostly and taking small donations. Now, when I was running a statewide campaign, that costs a lot of money. And you've got to be naive to think there isn't a quid pro quo behind large donation, friend or no friend. There's always a quid pro quo, and I'm concerned with that. I'm very comfortable being a grassroots candidate. I'm very comfortable funding most of my campaign, and I'm going to keep it that way. Thank you.
Justin?
Well, my policy is anyone could donate, but no one can influence. So if that's a developer, a business owner, you know, your family down the street, I don't know what they believe or what they want, but they can donate if they believe in the message, if they believe in what I'm doing or what my campaign stands for. That being said, you could check out my finance reports and you probably won't see any big developers on there. I don't really think they're calling around. Sadly, they haven't called me. But we're out here to raise money from the community. We're out here to raise money from business owners that are looking to support the community, support jobs. And like I said, anyone could donate, no one can influence. That's the best standard that you can have. Because if you're someone that says I can be influenced and then you do have donations, then I want to understand then who's donating to you. It might not be developers, but who might it be? So that's my standard. I think it's the most reasonable one to take. It's the most honest one to take. And luckily we have reports you can put out so everyone can see everything in transparency. So.
Thank you all. That was very candid on all your part. It was wonderful. I'm glad you answered that question. In fact, I'm really thrilled, and I'm sure we all are. We've got a good group of people here, folks, that people want to represent. Let's have some applause for them. Thank you all for what you're doing. Thank you for writing. It's awesome.